Have you heard about our teacher, Miss Frizzle? Her clothes are wild, her school bus is wacky, and her class trips are weird. Whenever we study something in her class, we get into it in a really big way. Class, to understand weather, we have to know about the sun. It's a hot topic. Why is the temperature usually higher in the afternoon? Because by the afternoon, the sun has been warming things up all day. We were learning about weather. Absolutely everything in our room was about rain, or snow, or sun, or wind. Every kid in the class was doing a weather project. We were even listening to weather reports on Miss Frizzle's radio. At my old school, we didn't have all these projects. At my old school, our teacher didn't dress that way. Anemometer measures wind force and speed. And now for the weather. Weather forecasting made easy. Snow, rain, hail, and hardy. Adventures of Weatherman. Weatherman faces the storm. Weatherman meets the snowman. Weatherman. Our snowflakes. Spelling words. Sun, rain, drizzle, hail, don't, your, wind, snow, sleet, hurricane, forget, umbrella. The Earth is wrapped in a blanket of air by Tim. Earth, atmosphere. Our atmosphere is a blanket of air, hundreds of miles thick. Most of our weather happens in the troposphere, the 8 miles of air that's closest to Earth. Thermosphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, troposphere, Earth. Most weather happens here. So we weren't surprised one morning when Miss Frizzle said, "It's a perfect day for our trip to the weather station. We'll meet a team of weather forecasters. We'll learn about our atmosphere." Miss Frizzle says we have to know about air to understand weather. I can't see it. Air is a mixture of invisible gases by Shirley. And we have to know about water too. Air Has Weight by Ralphie. A balloon with air in it is heavier than an empty balloon. Air contains water. When water evaporates, water molecules go into the air. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. We hadn't finished our experiments about air, but with Frizzy at the wheel, we were going, ready or not. When does the weather change? When the air changes by Shirley. Is the air hot or cold? Is it dry or moist? Is it still or moving? When these things change, the weather changes. Sorry, I can't go, Miss Frizzle. I have to sharpen my pencil. But Arnold, we'll have a real adventure. In that case, I have to sharpen several pencils. Look for a change in the weather, folks. In no time, we were riding along in the old school bus. We were trying to get some music on the radio. We didn't see Miss Frizzle turning a little strange dial on the dashboard. We didn't notice that the bus was changing. What Makes Wind by Arnold. A mass of heavy air rolls in and pushes on a mass of lighter air. When the air masses move, that is wind. Winds range from gentle breezes to strong gales that can destroy things. Wind is just air moving. That is, children. Listeners, winds are picking up speed. That radio won't play music. All it does is give the weather. It figures. All of a sudden, Dorothy Ann said, "Look!" We couldn't believe it. We were all wearing flying suits, and we were sitting in a basket. The bus had been turned into a hot air balloon, and we were about to lift off. At my old school, we never went up in hot air balloons. Sounds like my kind of school. We'll be using this gas burner to heat the air in this balloon. Heat makes air expand by Molly. Hot air expands because heat makes air molecules bounce far apart. Air, balloon. Air expands and flows into the balloon. Hot water heats the air. Ask an adult for help when using very hot water. 2 words from Dorothy Ann. When something expands, it spreads out. Air molecules are the tiniest bits of air. We started going up, and Miss Frizzle said, "Did I mention, children, that hot air rises? See Hot Air Rise by Alex and Rachel. Cut a spiral. Needle and thread." The light bulb heats the air. The warm air rises and makes the paper spiral spin. Why does hot air rise? By Carlos. Hot air is lighter than cold air, so it floats on top of the cold air, the way a marshmallow floats on hot chocolate. Weather balloon. Class, every day, all over the world, scientists send up special balloons to take weather measurements. We're going up. Wow. We rose higher and higher. Even though the hot air was filling the balloon, the air around us was growing colder. We had to put on warm jackets. Going up, better bundle up, by Phoebe. Brr. Warm air rises from the earth. As it goes up, it gets colder. You can't see it, but it's all around you. What is it? Air. It's cold up here. You're not afraid of high places, are you, Arnold? That radio spoke to me. How did it know my name? I knew I should have stayed home today. Warm air rising from Earth carries lots of water vapor molecules, Miss Frizzle continued. As the air rises, it cools down. The water condenses in the air and forms clouds. A weather word, by Dorothy Ann. When water condenses, molecules of water vapor join together and make drops of liquid water. Did you bring your raincoat, Arnold? Tell me this isn't happening. We drifted in the center of a cloud. Miss Frizzle was right. It was damp in there. The cloud made tiny water droplets hanging in the air. When is that teacher bringing her class? Not till later. Much later. 3 kinds of clouds, by Wanda. Curly or wispy clouds are called cirrus. Layered clouds are called stratus. Lumpy or puffy clouds are called cumulus. What kind of clouds are forming around Miss Frizzle and the kids? Weather station. Down below, the weather forecasters were standing in the rain. They didn't see us inside the cloud, but we could hear their voices. One of them said, I hope that teacher knows there's a hurricane watch in effect. Check out my hurricane watch, Arnold. Get it? Hurricane watch? I'm pretending I can't hear. What is a hurricane? By Flory. A hurricane is one of the most violent kinds of storms. In a hurricane, winds swirl in a circle around the storm center at 74 miles per hour. More words from Dorothy Ann. A hurricane watch means that a hurricane may strike within the next 36 hours. A hurricane warning means that a hurricane is likely to strike within the next 24 hours. A warning is more urgent than a watch. As usual, Miss Frizzle paid no attention. She turned to the fire, and more hot air rushed into the balloon. As we rose above the cloud, the wind started pushing us south. Before long, we had traveled thousands of miles. Miss Frizzle said that we were above a tropical ocean about 500 miles north of the equator. Wow, look at that water. We can go swimming and windsurfing and snorkeling. What is the equator? By Carlos. The equator is an imaginary line around the Earth's middle. It divides the globe into 2 equal parts. Why is it hotter near the equator? By Michael. Because of the way the Earth is tilted, the sun's rays almost always shine towards the middle of the Earth. This means there are no cold winters there. North Pole, South Pole, most direct rays from the sun hit the equator. It's also called the tropics. Below us, blue-green waves were sparkling. On a sandy island, palm trees were waving. It looked like a vacation paradise to us. But Frizzy said, Class, we now have arrived at the world's hurricane breeding grounds. Nearly all hurricanes get started over warm tropical oceans, kids. I've heard that hurricanes are dangerous. So Miss Frizzle's taking us to one. She would. Why do hurricanes have names? By Carmen. Often, more than one hurricane is brewing at once. It's easier to keep track of them if they're given names. Some famous hurricanes are Agnes, Andrew, Bob, Elena, Gilbert, Gloria, Ivan, and Katrina. Hi, Bob. What's happening, Gloria? Where do hurricanes begin? By Tim. where it started right here. This is the hurricane, and that's the path it went. Here's the hurricane, and this is the path it went. Here's the hurricane, and here's the path it went. Another one, and another one, and another one. You can see that it all began in the tropical water near the equator. Class, remember, just as hot air rises from the ocean surface, the hot water vapor in the air condenses and forms clouds, said the Frizz. Down below, more hot air rushed in from all sides to take place of the rising air. In the middle of the rising air, a column of sinking air formed. We started sinking with it. When is hurricane season? Most hurricanes begin in the late summer and early fall. That is when the tropical oceans are warmest. The warmer the ocean is, the stronger the hurricane is likely to become. Warm, moist air blows. There's rain. There's the winds. Water vapor condenses. Air cools, then sinks. Sinking air. A hurricane is starting. Our balloon is falling. Oh no. Oh dear, said the Miss Frizzle. The balloon must have sprung a leak. Hot air was rushing out and the balloon was plummeting fast. Jump ship, class, shouted the Frizz. She jumped overboard and we went after her. Right away, we knew it was a big mistake. Hurry up and jump, Arnold. I can't look. Do all tropical storms become hurricanes? By Amanda Jane. No, all around the world there are more than 100 tropical storms each year. Only about 60 of them grow to a hurricane strength, and only a handful of those ever reach places where people live. Follow me, kids. The wind was blowing the clouds into a huge circle. The storm is starting to take on a typical shape of a hurricane. Isn't it fascinating, children? Shouted Miss Frizzle. Help! We're going around in circles. I'm getting dizzy. What makes hurricane winds blow in a circle? By Alex. Winds begin by blowing straight, but the movement of the earth as it spins on its axis make them curve. So here's the earth is spinning and the winds curve. The faster winds blow, the more they curve. Hurricane winds are very fast, so they curve and curve until they make a circle. It was more than fascinating. It was terrifying. We were caught in the edge of the storm, blowing around and around in a giant whirlwind. That whirlwind was a hurricane. How big is a hurricane? By John. Hurricanes are enormous. Each one is about 10 miles high and 300 to 600 miles wide. A typical hurricane has a lifespan of about 10 days. Listeners, we'll be telling you about the whole hurricane. Maybe its batteries will run out soon. It was more than fascinating. It was terrifying. Oh, actually, the page. We flew through miles of thunderstorms, and Miss Frizzle took roll call. Guess who was missing? Arnold. He had fallen and missed the plane. Thunderstorms. Rain, rain, and more rain. By Flory. In 20 minutes, one thunderstorm sends down 125 million gallons of water. Arnold fell. Poor kid. Oh no. Arnold is now experiencing the hurricane close up, but not to worry, Tim. I'm sure he'll be fine. But there's Arnold. Miss Frizzle marked Arnold absent and flew straight into the storm. We're flying into the hurricane. What a disaster. Why does everything always happen to us? We'll be seeing stormy seas today, Arnold. Seeing stormy seas? I'm touching them, smelling them, gulp, tasting them. The farther in we went, the faster the winds blew. At last we came to the inner hurricane and entered the eye wall, a ring of heavy clouds around the storm center. In the eye wall, the winds were blowing the fastest yet, and the rain was coming down in sheets. How fast do winds blow inside a hurricane? By Carmen. Outer hurricane, 40 miles per hour. Middle hurricane, 74 miles per hour. Inner hurricane, 120 to 150 miles per hour. How fast is the wind blowing at the eye wall, kids? The eye wall is the fiercest part of the hurricane. We're encountering trouble, class. Turbulence is when the air is violently disturbed. I am violently disturbed. Eye wall, Arnold. All around were columns of air. and hot towers or chimneys that were sucking up more and more hot, moist air from the ocean. The heat energy from the air was feeding the storm and making it stronger. The plane was shaking, and so were we. I'm all shook up. Please stay seated, class. So here's the eye. Cold air is going down. Warm air from the ocean is going up this hot tower. This is the eye wall. And that's the plane. Hey kid, how do you get out here? It's a long story. Waves will be as high as a house. The wind speed here is 40 miles per hour. Then, suddenly, everything was quiet. Class, we've entered the eye, or center of the hurricane, announced Miss Frizzle. The ocean waves still crashed below, and the winds howled outside. But in the eye, only gentle breezes blew. Up above, the sky was blue. The sun was shining, and we relaxed and enjoyed ourselves. Peace and quiet, balmy breezes. The eye, where we are in the hurricane. The eye wall, Arnold, land. It's quiet in the eye of a hurricane, by Carlos. The fierce swirling winds of the hurricane do not enter the center of the storm. Winds. We flew about 30 miles across the eye. Then the Frizz called out, "We will enter the other side of the eye wall now." "Don't go," we cried, but the plane was already on its way, back into the hurricane's fierce wind and rain. "We're trying to reach land before the full force of the hurricane hits." Good idea. The hurricane is approaching land. There will be heavy flooding along the coast. Why don't hurricane winds blow into the eye? By Shirley. The winds swirl in toward the eye of the storm, but they do not enter it because they are pushed out by the same force that pushes you outward when you spin around. The entire hurricane was moving across the ocean toward land, and we are going right with it. The right forward of the corner of the hurricane, as you are looking toward the land, has the strongest wind and rain and the highest ocean waves, shouted the Frizz. Naturally, she flew directly into that part. How Hurricanes Travel, by Wanda. When a hurricane starts, it usually moves slowly, about 110 to 20 miles per hour. As the storm gets farther north, its speed can increase to 60 miles an hour. Hurricanes can travel hundreds of miles each day. Which part of the hurricane is the strongest? By Flory. The right front center is the strongest because the whirling winds are circling towards the shore. They add their strength to the winds that move the storm forward. A hurricane moves like a top spinning across the floor. It moves two ways. It spins around and travels forward. The eye. Storm's right front, right rear. Storm moving forward. Storm's left front, left rear. Most damage will be done here. Arnold should be reaching land any minute now. Let's take a spin. The hurricane should be reaching land any minute now. We must evacuate before the floods come. Tell me about it. Another weather word by Dorothy Ann. When people evacuate an area, they get out of there fast. As the hurricane approached land, the wind pulled up the trees by the roots and blew the roofs off houses. It also blew ashore a huge dome of water called the storm surge. The ocean rose 10 feet higher than usual, and on top of that there were giant waves. We were horrified as we watched the storm surge sweep over the shore below. Flooding from the storm surge often causes more damage than the wind, class. It is also responsible for more loss of life. Look down, it's horrible. The water is coming in. Board up windows, sandbags, evacuate. Hurricanes Then and Now, by Ralphie. In the past, there was less property damage. Today, coastal areas are more built up, so more houses and buildings are damaged in hurricanes. In past times, people did not know if a hurricane was coming. Today, weather reports warn people. If people are able to evacuate in time, these warnings can save lives. But that was nothing compared to the horror we felt when we heard the Frizz shouting above the sound of roaring water. "We seem to be running out of gas, children." Sure enough, the plane was dipping lower and lower. As we fell into the water, we saw Arnold waving to us from a nearby roof. That kid looks familiar. That plane looks familiar. Arnold, we need to evacuate now. Maybe we can help someone. Somehow, Arnold managed to get on the plane before we were swept away by the waves at the front edge of the hurricane. The water was creeping up the windows. The plane was going to sink for sure. Then we saw a dark funnel shape coming our way. What is a tornado? By Arnold. A tornado is a twisting funnel-shaped whirlwind that hangs from a thundercloud. See, 50,000 feet up, there's a thundercloud. Huge thundercloud. And that's this tornado. We fell in the ocean. A fishing boat picked us up. We thought we were goners. We flew in the eye. The eye wall was the worst. We thought we were goners. We are goners. I've seen that shape on TV, said Ralphie. I've read it in a book, said Keisha. The twister came right for us. The next thing we knew, it had picked us up and we were traveling by tornado. Tornadoes often occur at the edges of hurricanes that are moving over land, class. A typical tornado has a short lifespan, only a few minutes. I think my lifespan just got shorter. Are tornadoes and hurricanes alike? By Phil. Yes and no. Tornadoes and hurricanes are both whirlwinds, but tornadoes are much smaller than hurricanes, have faster winds for the most part, and destroy almost everything in their path. Tornadoes can twist at speeds of 200 to 300 miles per hour. After a while, we felt a bump and looked around. The tornado had set us down gently. We were in our old school bus again. We were dressed in our regular clothes again. The hurricane was over, and we were at a gas station. Usually, things that are picked up by the tornado are broken apart, but not always. Can tornadoes really carry objects? By Keisha. Yes, tornadoes are like giant vacuum cleaners. They lift dirt, trash, and even large objects such as houses, cars, trees, and railroad trains. Once, a tornado picked up a crate of eggs and set them down miles away, and not one egg was broken. Miss Frizzle filled up the tank and drove down the road, as if nothing had happened. As I said earlier, class, we're on our way to visit a weather station, she said. Take our class, for example. We're all okay. Even the radio's still working fine. Here's a treat for you, Arnold, another weather update. That depends on what you mean by working fine. The weather forecasters at the station had a lot to tell us about hurricanes. We had a lot to tell them, too. Hurricane winds swirl in a circle because of the rotation of the Earth. Hey, that's right. A hurricane from start to finish. Hot air rises over the tropical oceans near the equator. Thunderclouds form. Winds begin circling around the eye of the storm. Then the storm travels. Circling winds increase to 74 miles per hour or more. If a hurricane reaches shore, land is flooded by a storm surge. Hurricane fades gradually as it moves inland. A hurricane dies as it moves over land because there's no more hot, moist ocean air to fuel the storm. The kids know a lot about hurricanes, don't they, Al? That radio spoke to me. How did it know my name? I knew I should have stayed home today. Finally, we drove back to school and finished up our weather projects. The Future of Hurricanes, Bigger and Stronger, by Amanda Jane. During times when the Earth is warmer, hurricanes become stronger. The temperature of the Earth is going up. Uh-oh. Global warming means fiercer hurricanes. Oh no, I can't take it anymore. 3 Bad Things Hurricanes Can Do, by John. Hurt people, destroy property, and make floods. 3 Good Things Hurricanes Can Do, by Gregory. Balance Earth's temperature by drawing away hot air, bring rain to dry places, and clear the air with falling rain. Clean the air with falling rain. Make a twister in a bottle, by Miss Frizzle. Fill a bottle 2/3 of the way full of water. Hold the bottle over the sink. Cover the opening with one hand and turn the bottle upside down. Move the bottle rapidly in a circle. Stop circling and take your hand away from the opening. See the twister in the bottle as the water runs out. And now for some music. What, no more weather? Cool, alright. I want to find out more about how to keep safe in hurricane, tornadoes, and thunderstorms. Wanda. What is fog? Arnold. What causes frost on window panes? Rachel. How snowflakes form? Ralphie. My favorite temperature by Carlos, 98.6, is normal in the human body. My favorite cloud by Shirley, it looked like a bunny. My favorite hailstorm by Arnold, I was safe in bed. After the trip, we needed some time to relax. Miss Frizzle said we could have a party. We had great games, crazy dancing, and yummy snacks. And for a while, we didn't even think about Miss Frizzle's next class trip. You danced quite well for a radio. Singing in the rain. In Asia, a hurricane is called a typhoon. At my old school, our teacher never wore bee shoes. I wonder what the next field trip is. To the Magic School Bus mailbag. Letters, we get letters. To the Magic School Bus editor. You should not have said that a school bus could turn into a hot air balloon or a weather plane. That cannot really happen. Your friend, Sam. Dear Joanne and Bruce, reading about hurricanes may be fun, but it is no fun to be in one. I know because my family was in Hurricane Andrew and it was scary. Keith. Dear Arnold, on your hurricane trip you reached land, but most hurricanes go far out into the sea and do not hurt people and property. Your friend, Al, the weather scientist. Dear Joanna, radios cannot have conversations with people. Barbara. Dear Bruce, radios do not dance. From Jean. A fishing boat would probably not survive if it were out in a very strong hurricane. From the Coast Guard. Dear Bruce, if Arnold really fell from a great height into the ocean, he would need medical attention. From your doctor. Dear Joanna, the things that happen on Miss Frizzle's trips are much too risky for children. Please keep them home next time. Your mother. Miss Frizzle, we think the whole class should enroll in Phoebe's old school. The students at that better safe than sorry school. To all the readers, some of the things that happen in this book are make-believe, but of course all the science is real. Joanna and Bruce. The end.